think you come in after. You may have been here with it. Next year will be 50 years.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We appreciate everyone coming this evening, and we have a list of people that want to speak. I think there's a dozen people. So what we're going to do, the public hearing is the first thing on the list, so let's go ahead and do that before we get into anything else. And Dave, do you want to start on that?
Okay, we'll go ahead and go on the record here at 7:01 p.m. on Monday, December the 9th. Calling to order a public hearing, and I'll read what was on the agenda. A hearing regarding an ordinance to amend the Hermann Municipal Code to provide that bed and breakfast inns, guest houses, vacation rentals or homes, and any other non-owner occupied lodging establishments called herein bed and breakfast inns and guest houses shall be allowed in R2 and R3 zoning districts by conditional use permit only, and to establish regulations for all new and existing bed and breakfast inns and guest houses in all zoning districts. And so tonight we have marked as Exhibit 1 the notice of public hearing that was posted in the newspaper, and as Exhibit 2 we have the affidavit of publication confirming that the notice was published in the newspaper. And as Exhibit 3, all of the ordinances in the Code of Ordinances of the City of Hermann. And as Exhibit number 4, we have the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from March 20th, 2019. And a version of this ordinance went to Planning and Zoning and was considered there. So we have those minutes here. Those would be all the exhibits. Mayor Kerber, do you agree to accept these exhibits into the record?
I do.
All right. You may proceed.
Okay. We have, as I said, a dozen people, and I'm going to read a little something about the reason we have this ordinance, and then we will start with the individuals here in the order that they signed in. Let them come forward up to the podium, identify yourself, let us know if you live in Hermann or not, and you'll be given 4 or 5 minutes. Otherwise, we'll be here 12 times 5 is an hour, so we could be here a long time. Please keep in mind that each year visitors to Hermann spend over $6 million in overnight lodging stays. Many of them do not think about the possibility that the room they're staying in has not been inspected or held up to safety standards and requirements. When the same people, including all of us here, travel around the country and stay in motels and hotels, we assume, and rightly so, that these rooms have been inspected and are safe. Every room rented by Holiday Inn, Ramada Inn, Drury Inn, etc. is inspected by some state or government authority. Would you knowingly take your family and spend a night in a room that's not been inspected? You probably don't even think about it, or you assume that it's been done. Most of our local guests likewise assume that our rooms are inspected, but they're not. After a guest house is ready to be occupied, it is inspected by the building inspector and given approval for occupation. He never goes back. So if the guest house remains in business for 10 years, no one from Hermann, City of Hermann, or any government official of the city has been back to see what the condition of the lodging establishment is. Think about all the changes that can occur in a building over a 10-year period, or 5 years, or 4 years even, or longer. The purpose of this ordinance is a basic safety standard for all guest houses and therefore for all tourists coming to Hermann. Tourism as measured by lodging rentals has grown again this year for the 7th or 8th year in a row. We have spent more money in promoting Hermann as a tourist destination and have established the best staffed tourism commission and tourism director to direct this effort that we have ever had. A serious event such as a fire, improving safety standards for overnight rentals will not reduce tourism, but will increase it. A serious event such as a fire with fatalities will set tourism back many years, especially if the word gets out that Hermann had no ordinances, no inspections, and did not require insurance. We cannot take this risk. Why didn't we include bed and breakfast? Because these are owner-occupied premises. We assume that the owner takes responsibility for the safety of his or her home and is there when it's rented and is really the best inspector we could probably ever have. Long-term rentals is a completely other case. We don't address that. That's something possibly in the future, but right now we're taking small steps. Okay, that's the reason that we're here, and we're going to start, as I said, let's try to keep it to 4 minutes or so, 5 if you have to. But if we have people saying the same thing over again, then we'll have to limit it even more because we just don't have an hour or two to spend. The number one on the first person assigned is Rose Beltran. Is Rose here?
Yep.
Okay, could you come forward and state your name and your address and tell us what you want to tell us?
I'm Rose Beltran. I own Ash Creek Guest House at 508 Market Street. I also own Hillside Cottage and Cork House on West 5th Street. And my biggest concern about this is the fees that we are having to pay. I'm concerned why the restaurants don't have inspections, why the antique shops don't have inspections as well. Why is it only guest houses? Also, the square footage requirements, these are old homes. I own 3 of them and they're small rooms. And having 99 square feet with only one person in it I think that's ridiculous. The other one is the insurance requirement. I have a business, yes I do, and I am incorporated, but there are endorsements you can get on a regular homeowner's policy that will cover Airbnb and short-term rentals. And you don't have to have an actual business liability policy. And then my last concern was the CO detectors. In your ordinance as it's written says they have to be in the hallway on the first floor. I don't have a hallway, so I'm just not sure where I would put a CO. It's in my kitchen right now, but I don't have a hallway. So
Okay.
Those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it very much. Did you get all those? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Rose. Kevin Sanderman.
I think it's worth more than 4 or 5 minutes of everybody's time here tonight. When you have a $6 to an $8 million business, it's our biggest business in this town. I don't think too many of them are bigger than that. As a group, thank you guys. We're doing the hard work getting people to come to this town, and we're taking care of them. Better than a bed and breakfast with an innkeeper in them. So they should all be included in this, if it's truly about safety. Okay, I own a few bed and breakfasts in town. I don't know who wrote this, I have no idea. But there's a lot of things you guys didn't consider. If I sleep 10 people or 8 people because I got 4 beds or 5, if you limit me to 6 beds, if you limit me to 6 people, that's 4 people ain't gonna come to Hermann. They're not gonna stay in your bed and breakfast and their girlfriends stay over here. This potentially will cost Hermann millions of dollars in property values, because I don't know if anybody in here is not a homeowner, but we've increased your value of your property by a lot. I was at a bank today, I was with an appraiser today. We're not gonna get the money to borrow if our values of our properties go down. You guys gotta consider this. This is crazy. If we lose these people, every person that comes to Hermann, these are not my numbers. My numbers were a lot lower. My numbers were $125 a person. I went around today and measured a lot of houses. The Hermann Motel cannot operate under your guys' agreement. It's terrible, okay? Went and measured some houses, talked to some people and did some number crunching, and I said $125 a person that stays here, whether they stay in a group of 6, 8, or 10, or even 12, are gonna spend $1,000. That's wrong. I got with the tourist division of the state of Missouri and their numbers. A person that comes here to visit will spend $250 or more. And you guys want to cut that by 25%. It's asinine. That isn't being pro-tourism. You know, you guys went after Sloan for playing music. You went after me for my trolley. Now you're going after these folks for their hard-earned invested dollars. All we want to do is make a living. And you guys won't let us do it. You guys think you're running our businesses and you're not. Guys, you're just up here to organize things and make sure things go right and help us. We never get a help or a thank you. We put 8 or 9, there's a guy up here, Bittersweet, beautiful home. All the houses around him now are gonna appraise higher. He's starting down here on 4th Street. All of those houses are gonna appraise more. I've done the same thing. You cannot let this happen, okay? You just can't. It's foolish to even think about it. A flashlight in the, whoever came up with that, a flashlight in each bedroom. You know what they're gonna do with them? They're gonna take them home. You guys wanna dish out the flashlights? It's something you guys gotta put on the back burner. Concentrate on safety, fire. We got a fire guy here, we got a police officer here. Focus on safety. That's fire, gas, police problems if we need them. We haven't had any problems in our guest houses. The chief of police said last week he's never been to one, except maybe up on 3rd Street. And maybe this is where all this has started, but it needs to stop. We work our asses off for you guys. We love our town, and you're gonna tear it up if you turn this thing into an ordinance. It's that simple. Bob, you know that. You guys brag on what you've done the last 3 years. We've been doing this for 10 or more. We finally got here, all of us in this room, and all these people out here that support us. And we've made their town better. You gotta admit it's the prettiest town in Missouri, right? It wouldn't be with 25 dilapidated houses. And I can show you each and every one of them. I pick everybody up from these houses. They're not overcrowded. Maybe 1 or 2 sleeping on the couch. We don't mind, as long as you don't mind. But we can manage our own properties. And we know we have insurance. Good Lord, you can't have an investment without insurance. I've got a property and I want to ask you about it real quick. Bob, let me ask you about this property because it's very important. I came in here and asked for a demolish permit for a property I have on War Street. You guys gave it to me. I asked for electric, water, and building
Kim,
permit.
you gotta,
I did, real quick,
all right.
okay? You guys gave me all them. The inspector was at my place 2 times a week. We put electronic monitoring system in that thing. Cost a lot of money. Everything's perfect about it. It doesn't fit. And then you guys, all of you, voted to give me a business license. Now you want to take that away from me. Or you want me to gear down to a different position and run my business differently. I'm going to fight over that. Fellas, ma'am, I'm going to fight over that one,
All right,
okay?
Kevin.
I'm done. But I'm just telling you the truth. That one I'm going to fight over.
Okay, I hear you. My song.
Man, I hate to follow Kevin. But he's the bad guy, I'm the good guy, okay, so.
All right.
And I don't have a dog in this race, I'm not a lodging owner, but I live and work down on 1st Street. And it does concern me because from a retail perspective, and I've been in business here in Hermann for 9 years, I've been in the retail business for 55 years. And I know that one of the reasons people come to Hermann is because of our wines, our beers, our sausage, our chocolates, our coffees, and everything else. But what they come for is the experience. and they want to experience Hermann. And when they come to Hermann, they want to experience Hermann together. They want to eat together, they want to drink together, and they want to sleep together. And I think when you start moving people around, they're not going to get what they came here for. So therefore, there's no reason for them to come back. They will not come back. They will find somewhere else where somewhere they'll get 12 people in a room and they'll have a good time because there's competition out there for those people. The tourism industry is running at an all-time high. I know the city numbers, sales tax numbers, all that has to be up. And it's because people are doing great things. And they're making it happen and they're making it work. Now, I understand there's got to be a safety issue here, and it is a safety issue. The top safety people we have in this town are the chief of police. If you're going to create a safety board, number one, the chief of police needs to head it. Number two, the fire chief needs to be headed on it, or somebody from the fire department. Those are our top safety people. And no disrespect, but none of you are safety people, except maybe Bruce. That's not your area of expertise, and maybe Jim, some experience, all right? But that's not your area of expertise. You have people in town who have that expertise on staff, already being paid. Use them. Those two people on board get 3 other people who have no dog in the race, like a trucking company owner or an industrial owner, and then 2 lodging people. So you had a board of 7 people or 5 people or whatever. If there's a problem, bring it to the board and let them handle it. If there is a problem, you're going to go to the chief of police most likely anyways, or you're going to go to the fire department anyways, so take it to them, let them handle it. If you handle it, I don't think you're going to get happy results. You're going to get unhappy results, and you're going to have more litigation. You're going to have more lawsuits that you're going to lose. We don't need that. You don't need that. Hermann doesn't need that. It's more money. You're going to, loss of revenue. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you. Kay Richmond. I see your question, so if you want to just state your question.
Yes, I had a question just to clarify who this applies to. Since I live in the dwelling and it is a bed and breakfast, does and what applies to me?
It doesn't apply to bed and breakfast.
Not bed and breakfast, owner occupied,
Except the inspection.
Except the inspection,
the inspection.
but not bed and no, bed and breakfast,
Time.
yeah.
According to our code, we have bed and breakfast homes and bed and breakfast inns and guest houses. Bed and breakfast inns and guest houses are sort of synonymous. In fact, when you look up guest house in the code, it says C, bed and breakfast inn. The bed and breakfast home is owner occupied. So these regulations that are being proposed in this ordinances apply to bed and breakfast inns and guest houses.
But not bed and breakfast homes,
Okay,
which are typically what we think of.
okay.
Okay.
As long as the bed and breakfast home is 4 rooms though, right? If it's 5, then it would be an inn.
I don't think so.
So you can have any number of rooms in a bed and breakfast home?
Owner occupied.
If it's owner occupied,
I think it states 4.
I think it's 4 or less.
Yeah, I believe it's
Up to
4.
Okay, so my next question would be, what about a suite that adjoins? Is it,
Let's let the lady ask the question.
so, guest rooms, would a suite count as one, which it has entry, access through both rooms? Is, with one bathroom in between? How is that defined?
We're looking it up. I
Okay.
think,
Be like a Jack and Jill restroom that's commonly shared.
Right,
But restrooms can't be used as a sleeping room.
Exactly, no.
So it really has no bearing on it from my concern.
So would it be two separate rooms?
Be two separate rooms based upon the square footage.
The square footage as
And
well?
that square footage consideration allowing the proper egress, meaning in case of a fire emergency, that the occupant can get out without crawling over a bed or a chest of drawers or
Right.
making way to the window.
Right,
So if you have two rooms there, 12 by 12, that's 144 square feet, 50 per, that means you could have 4 people, 2 in each, to allow appropriate egress in case of emergency.
okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay, Dave.
The definition of a bed and breakfast home is a private owner-occupied dwelling containing not more than 4 guest rooms. Bed and breakfast in a private dwelling containing not more than 10 guest rooms in which transient guests are lodged overnight for sleeping purposes for compensation. And a guest house is C bed and breakfast inn. Do we have any owner-occupied dwellings used as bed and breakfast that have more than 4 guest rooms? You do? How many guest rooms do you have?
So I would have 5.
My advice to the city would be that these regulations do not apply to you. They are meant to apply to non-owner occupied guest houses and bed and breakfast inns.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So I have that same question.
Okay. We're gonna take these in order.
So that would apply
Scott,
for me as
excuse
well?
me, Scott and Jill Engelhoff.
E-G-E-L,
I'm sorry,
E-G-E-L-H-O-F-F. So, yeah, I had a couple, just a general thing on the building requirements per code and whatnot. I'm sure you'll address that as we go. I agree with Kevin wholeheartedly, so I'm not gonna waste a bunch of time there. As far as my one general comment is, I believe all the guest houses, all together, we ought to be regulated all together. I don't know how you can separate us all, so that's concerning to me. And then another, general comment, I started coming about 12 years ago. What worries me is if we take away, we bought a home on 6th Street, I'm on 6th Street, that didn't even have air conditioning or heat on the 2nd floor, and they were raising 2 kids in that home. I don't know about anybody here, but I wouldn't put my dog on the 2nd floor, and let alone raising home. So we took a home that basically was not gonna be occupied under any condition I'd put my kids in. And we put, with local businesses here, Steve moved everything from St. Louis to Hermann, all my insurance. I use a local person to buy my home. I use local people to put my AC and all that. So we've got people that are investing in Hermann, investing homes that really, in my opinion, are not livable, right? And turning into livable homes. So I just really want the Board of Aldermen to be thinking about over-regulations, and if we are over-regulating, we are gonna take people that will invest in homes and make them better. And I'm also worried about separating this one from that one, from this one from that one. We need to really take our time and see the guidelines that it's all together and looked at as far as, safety needs to be across the board, not with just this one or that one. And so that's really all I have to say. I just want to make sure that that's thought of as
Thank
we're
you.
moving forward. Thank you.
We have Deborah Smith.
Deborah Smith, and I live on 810 High Street here in town. Unfortunately, I have a different perspective on this as a homeowner. My husband and I have lived in our home for 40 years, and during that time we've invested in many improvements to our home, and we strive to maintain our property well, and we take great pride in our home. Beginning in 2012, we expressed to the Board of Aldermen our concerns over a proposed owner unoccupied guest house across the street from our home. And despite our concerns, a conditional use permit was issued only after many assurances from the owners that they were going to restrict noise by not having outdoor furniture, that they would carefully monitor the property, and none of this happened. 3 sets of patio furniture, a fire pit, and an outdoor bar were placed outside of the house, and absolutely no monitoring or supervision occurred. The house became a destination for bachelorette parties with as many as 12 young women staying there at a time. These were not visitors that came here to experience the history and culture of our town. They were here to get drunk and party, and anyone who has encountered most of these groups can attest to this. In addition to the excessive noise, I witnessed guests urinating and vomiting, all in full view of our deck. We even planted a $500 evergreen tree in an attempt to block the view, but it does not suffice. I can still have a clear view from my kitchen window. I am not opposed to tourism. I have recently volunteered much of my time recruiting designers for the tablescape display at the Rotunda, baking bread for the German school bake sale, all to benefit local organizations. We recognize the value of tourism to our community. However, I am opposed to owner unoccupied guest houses that infringe upon my ability to enjoy my own home and property. Our home is our investment. We built our home in a residential area, which is zoned as such, with the expectation that we would not be living next to a guest house operated by an owner who does not live on the premises and does not monitor the behavior of the people who rent the house. We live in Hermann 365 days a year, buy our groceries, cars, appliances, mattresses, and furniture locally. We patronize local businesses, hire local plumbers and electricians, use local contractors for construction, and purchase building materials locally. Our dentist and healthcare providers are in Hermann. We support local charities, attend pancake breakfasts, hospital and firehouse fundraisers. We donate to the Boy Scout food drive and food pantry. We support the Crusade Against Cancer. In short, we support our community 365 days a year. As residents and homeowners, we should expect to be able to enjoy our own property. Have we reached a point where we, as citizens of Hermann, matter less to our community than tourists or the people who purchase these properties strictly for investment purposes? And I sincerely hope not. That's my only comment.
Becky Jecka.
Good evening.
I just want to see that.
JECHA.
I don't understand this, so I'm sure you're gonna help us.
That's okay. And I'm gonna adjust that a little bit because a lot of this has already been brought up. And
Okay.
I will start by saying I completely agree with Kevin and Mike and their comments. Scott, totally understand exactly where you're coming from too. As an investor, as a homeowner in my own city that I run a full-time Airbnb out of, I live there. Sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm not. I understand all the ins and outs of this and how it can affect people. I understand how it affects residents, and as a responsible homeowner, I don't have those issues, but I understand that not everybody is the same, and so I totally respect where you're coming from, Deborah. I think our main concern here is exactly what everybody's talking about, is that safety should be across the board. The comment that an owner who occupies a bed and breakfast is the best inspector that you could possibly have, I don't agree with that, not at all. Because I can tell you of owners that I know that live in their homes, and because things are functioning, that's all that matters to them. They don't understand that knob and tube wiring is a danger. They don't understand that being improperly insured is a danger, not only to the guests, but to themselves, to the city, to the community that they live in, to the neighbors, all those things. It should not be a pick and choose. It should be all for one and one for all when it's an established lodging facility, no matter if you live there or if you don't. And if you live there full-time or if you don't. I have another issue with the conditional use permit. I don't understand this timeline, and I wrote that down on my card, that the 6-month window, and it may not be a huge relevant thing right now, but you know, if a house goes up for sale and it's been used as such a lodging establishment, and it sits on the market for 6 months, or maybe somebody is ill and they can't run their establishment and they finally decide they have to let it go. Why do we have to have 6 months? Why can't it just be that that new person can apply for that permit? Doesn't mean that they will get it or that they won't get it, but why couldn't they just do that? No matter if it's 6 months and a day or, 8 months. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to learn where that came from. What is that 6 month? If somebody could help me understand, why is that a window of time that's relevant here? And basically, that's it. Safety is huge to me. I respect this town. I love this town. I'm new to this town, but I'm not new to this. I've been through this with Cottleville, St. Charles, and Baldwin, and have been a part of buying and using property for investment purposes and helping write the ordinances, and I understand it, but I think that it would be really great if we could just slow down and take our time and really think through some of these things.
Thank you, Becky. I think one thing that bears mentioning here is that the 6 month starts when you buy the property. Once you own it, you have 6 months to reinstitute a guest house on that property. It doesn't start when you put it up for sale. So you have a full 6 months to get that done.
Can you clarify that date, please?
We will-
It would be from the time
we're
it
gonna-
ceases operation.
We're gonna be covering that.
Well, that's important. Could you please
Yes.
clarify that?
We're gonna cover that. Olin Stemming.
Olin Stimmy, did I say that?
I gotta.
Okay. Linda and I moved to Hermann January 30th, 1982. We've been in business in the real estate and insurance business, and we got into the lodging business the year that we bought the building that we're in, 200 East First Street on First and Schiller, and we enjoy that. And that was supposed to be our retirement job, but we're still not retired, but still enjoying hosting people. That was started October 3rd, our first guest, 2003. And so we've seen the start of the bed and breakfast, what is now known as the Klinger Mansion, Das Brown House, and Bill and Teddy Beard, what did they call theirs out there where Alpenhorn is now? I don't recall the name of that bed and breakfast. We've been involved in tourism all of these years, and my concern is one of the attractions that appeals to guests is the history of our town. And our historic buildings are an important part of that. My concern is trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And it seems like this ordinance does that from the standpoint of property values, because you're not going to very easily alter the sizes of the rooms. You're not going to very easily enhance everything there is in terms of access safety. In fact, we don't have handicapped accessible rooms, but they have stairs. But if you go by the commercial code and some of the commercial codes, why we don't have, and there's any number that have 2 stories in their and the lodging is sometimes on first and second, owner occupied or others. I think that's a big mistake. But I think Mike Sloan hit on the safety aspects of it. A number of others did, and I agree with most all of them. And the property values affect by changing the occupancy or not allowing a continuation of the occupancy. For instance, Linda had a friend that just today told her that what if I've had my property on the market, I want to sell it. But you know what it's going to bring? About half as much if it's not an operating bed and breakfast. And you know, this lady has all the smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, you know, all those enhancements. And maybe there should be an advisory role to address those issues. But the property values of not only the bed and breakfast and the guest houses who make substantial investments, the way it's written and the way the big brother control, the micromanaging of the tourism industry has occurred, along with another number of other things that have happened in this town. They need to be eliminated. And thank goodness we have an election coming in April. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Steve Granman?
Okay, I work in insurance and real estate here in Hermann, and I guess my questions are kind of more geared, first on a real estate standpoint, as far as rezone, or not necessarily rezoning, but I'm seeing a kind of a pattern here. We had this with R1. You know, I've worked in real estate for going on 20 years in Hermann. Guest houses and bed and breakfasts were allowed in R1 for a while. Then they went to conditional use permits. Then a moratorium came in and stopped basically everything on the R1. How long is it going to be before that happens in R2 and R3 again? You know, you guys are setting the stage for this, so I'm just kind of curious on that. I've got clients that specifically invest in Hermann, and I've had to search out properties that you guys tell us we can operate a guest house in or a bed and breakfast in. And I've taken, you know, a lot of my time to do that, and now you guys are coming back around saying, well, we've got to do conditional use permits on it. There's also been some block rezoning that has happened. People have paid money to rezone their properties. They're still residential properties at this time, but they paid money in order to have it rezoned. For future business endeavors, if they want to sell it, it increases their property values because people can use it for guest houses. What's going to happen with the money that those people paid for that? I mean, are they going to be reimbursed for this because now it's going to be made, you know, more difficult for anybody else that comes in on this? On an insurance standpoint, I would like to know what insurable interest the city has in any of these guest houses, and which basically, does the city have any ownership? If not, how can you mandate what kind of liability coverage these people have on their properties? Basically, you're doing the same thing that the Democrats did with Obamacare and forcing them to purchase a product that by law they do not have to have. And also, would that also make the city liable because now you're forcing them to do that? Are we going to see liability rates shoot up around here because they know it's a mandated thing? For Hermann, if you live in Hermann, you have to have $300,000, $600,000 worth of coverage. So, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Hannah Hessler.
Hi, my name's Hannah. I own the Vinchester on 3rd Street. I agree with what everyone has said here tonight, including Deborah. My heart goes out to you because I know as a homeowner that would not be fun to deal with. I do feel like just reading through this proposal, there are just quite a few holes in it, which I think we've all brought up here tonight. And I just urge you to please, take a step back. It seems like this is just being rushed, and, I think just this room tonight is a testament to maybe some of these things haven't been completely thought through perfectly. And I know a lot of time went into making this, so I'm not trying to knock that at all. I do think that guest houses need to be, the safety portion of guest houses should be looked at and regulated in some way. I just don't know that this is the best way. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, Ed Schmelz.
SCHMELZ. Hi, my name is Ed Schmelz. I'm from Union. I'm going to try to talk fast since I only have 5 minutes. Try to keep up. I only have 5 minutes. I would like to start with that. I'm not trying to be rude here or anything, but in one sentence to say that we're a $6 million a year industry, but we don't want to waste any more time than an hour is ludicrous. I mean, we're not worth more than an hour of your guys' time, and we're bringing $6 million a year. I don't know if there's some kind of sporting event on at 8:30 or I don't get it, but to me, to say we don't want to be here more than an hour is crazy. I've never heard any city hall say that in my entire life. I'm sorry. This just blows my mind a little bit. Just a couple of my things. The flashlight in every room. I'm gonna agree with him. They're gonna get taken. I don't know what we need those for. An exit sign over every exit door. If it's not lit, what does it do? If it's not lit, exit sign. If you're not gonna be able to see that sign, you can't see the door. If you're gonna be able to see one, you can see the other. Carbon monoxide detectors in all the hallways. If you don't have a gas appliance or a garage, you don't need a carbon monoxide detector. Just minor things. As far as the 5-bedroom, anything over a 5-bedroom having to have a state inspection? I mean, I think if that's going to be mandated for guest houses, that should be mandated citywide. I mean, if we have a 5-bedroom guest house with somebody who's living in, why are our guests more important than your citizens? You know, how come we're not mandating them? I mean, I don't understand that at all. Why doesn't the state inspect a 5-bedroom house where a family is living in? You know, I mean, a single-family guest house. I get the hotel and motel is a little bit different, but if we have a, you know, single-family house with 5 bedrooms, I don't understand why we're not doing that citywide. And I guess the last issue is, you know, the safety issues. I get safety, you know, 100%. I'm all for it. I mean, safety is 100%, but I do go to several city meetings, and I feel like a lot of municipalities use the safety issue as a cop-out. I would love to hear some statistics, if you guys could give us some feedback on how many injuries, deaths, or anything we've had in guest houses. I would love to hear that feedback, why we're implementing all these safety issues now, that are now an issue that weren't an issue before. So, thank you.
Okay, that concludes the list, but we should open it up and see if there's anyone else out here that didn't sign up that would like. Rhiannon, would you like to come forward?
I'm Rhiannon Hetzel. I own the historic Iron Horse Inn. You spell your name for me, please. Hetzell. I have been operating my business. December 18 will be my 13-year anniversary of operating it. Every penny I've earned thus far, I've gone back into maintaining the home and the bed and breakfast. I fall in that category of 4 rooms or less, owner occupied. One thing I will say about owner occupied is that you are there at most of the time. In my case, I'd say 99% of the time, I'm on the premise. If I'm in the yard raking leaves and one of my smoke detectors gets a bad battery and it starts beeping that occasional annoying beep, I can hear it outside my house when I'm raking leaves. I go in, I change the battery, see what's going on. I'm nearby to see if there are problems. And of course, I'm also wise enough to know that that being my investment, I need to have fire extinguishers and I need to have a good liability and fire and hazard insurance policy. Frankly, I think $600,000 is a very lax limit. Most people would say $1 million would be what you'd need in today's economy with hospital costs and stuff in case there's a problem in your home that causes injury to a guest. So I feel overall that the ordinances are not out of line. I don't believe they're out above board. I know that the committee, Councilman Susan Langer, and her committee has spent over 7 months or a good portion of this year researching what other towns are doing. So we're not out of line with other small towns and other tourist towns. I commend her on her hard work. I know she's also consulted with, as they were recommending, with the building department, planning and zoning, Lee Regal, and other specialists that you do have on at your pay and behest to come up with these conditions. I think a lot of thought and time has been put into it. I know the council members here, Mayor Korber and all the aldermen, spent 2.5 hours at their last meeting in a very intensive workshop as they went over every line of this, line by line, and keeping in mind input that they've already received from the Lodging Council and elsewhere. So I think it's been well thought out. I don't think anybody can call this fast-paced. Taking a year to come up with the ordinance practically is not fast-paced. At some point it has to be put into enforcement so that it can be applied. And I think it's unrealistic to think that we can have a city without concerns for noise violations, occupancy levels, safety issues for the guests that come here. Yes, the people want to come here and have a good time. Yes, they want to be with their group, but they also want to go home safely and without injury. So I think that I really don't know of anything in this ordinance that I would feel is out of line. And I commend the city on the fact that they are considering the people who are not represented very well here tonight, the local citizens, the people who just want to have families, want to send their kids to school, pick them up, you know, live in their homes and shop in our neighborhood. These people, we need to respect their livelihood in the city as well, and their ability to find housing that they can afford to rent. If we continue to allow out-of-town investors buy up every single house that's here in town, try to run it as a B&B, fail, some of them it doesn't matter whether they fail or succeed. If they fail, it's just a write-off against other investments. But we can't let that blind our vision for the people who come here just to raise families and have a home here. And I thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Rihanna. Appreciate it very much. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Tom?
I just had a couple things. Durham. Yeah. I had a couple of questions. One, it talks about the permit application will be under the city zoning inspector. I'm confused. Is that the enforcement officer? Is that Lee Rigo? Who is that?
The city's zoning inspector is its city administrator, so right now it would be Mark.
Okay.
We have an ordinance enforcement officer who a couple meetings ago was appointed deputy zoning inspector, kind of under Mark.
Right.
And so whenever you see the term zoning inspector in here, it could be Mark, or he could delegate that duty to the deputy zoning inspector.
That person's been hired and solely determined to be the deputy.
Well, and that said, if indeed we're going to have the all the B&Bs and guest houses inspected, do we have a plan for something timely? Because right now, I assume that you want to renew everything at the same time, or begin your permit all at the same time. Is there, I can't imagine inspections being, it's going to be a lengthy time period. So I don't know if you've got a plan for that or not. Also, I have a concern about the 1 year that, I would, and we've talked about it before, really like to see it done every 2 years, and mostly because of timeliness, and because I don't think people are going to be violating it every year. So that was one of my concerns. And then also the $67.50 for the inspection fee. The city is already, I guess, budgeted for salaries for either the city administrator or the zoning inspectors. And so then that $67.50 would be just a revenue generator and not to offset the cost of those inspectors, okay? Now, I understand, cost involved and time taken out. And so I would either suggest you move that to every 2 years, that fee, or do without it at all. The state that you're requiring inspections, the state inspector doesn't charge anything to inspect the buildings, okay? So there's no fee from the state, but the city's asking the B&Bs to pay $67.50, okay? And primarily, I'm in your agreement just like everyone else on the safety. I think that's important. I had an issue with the carbon monoxide detector going off of my house just a couple weeks ago. I'm glad I had it. I think they need them, so I have no qualms about any of the safety things. And I think that, again, like other people have said, that, safety should be the only issue. And I think maybe, I know you want to get this done before the first of the year, but I strongly believe that maybe it needs to go back and be rehashed some things eliminated, maybe some things changed, I'm sorry. And unlike others, I'll leave. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Tom.
Is there anybody else? Well, no, wait.
Okay, 1 minute.
Well, you've had your chance.
I use all 5, I guess.
Yeah, well, we have, anybody else? Okay. All right. Then that concludes the participation from the folks in attendance. That gives us a chance to answer some of these questions. And I can start with saying, Tom, we've made an adjustment on the amount of time. I think the first goes through February, and some of them go through, I forgot the schedule, but we have extended the time to get the first one started because we are near the end of the year, and the inspector, which is Anita, will need some time to get started and so forth. So that's been done.
Will the permit still be, the license still be due on the 1st, or? is it
Well, your
gonna be
license is being extended,
due? Okay.
so that you're not gonna be penalized. Well, let's start. Dave, do you have any comments on anything that was said?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of good points made here tonight. Some of the stuff I've wondered about. Dave, is there a state law that requires them to have insurance on these houses? I mean, I think they'd be absolutely crazy not to, but I mean, is there any law that requires them to have insurance on these guest houses?
Yes, but the city's police power, as they call it, allows you to ensure that they have the insurance. I don't see the increased liability issue for the city that was mentioned, but you know, you have the authority, if you want to confirm that these people have liability insurance.
But the state law does require.
I don't know, I'd have to check.
Dave, I think that Susan found that, I think, in looking at all the other cities and so forth, and that the amount stated is a minimum amount of insurance. I am interested in riders, the possibility of a rider.
Well, that was stated here tonight, you know, we were
Right.
talking about
Right.
basically another policy that they said you can get a rider to your homeowner's insurance that will cover this.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but we have to find out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you
Is that-
have an
is that
insurance
right?
man here.
It depends. So I've got one carrier that will do that. I've got numerous carriers that will not. So you're gonna be limited on what you can do. You know,
Like I
depends on
said,
what insurance carrier you go with. I've got one that will do it and that will carry it off of as a secondary home. And you can do incidental business on there or incidental guest house.
Okay.
But there's a lot
If
of
that,
people.
I mean, if it'll do it, I see
Is
no
that,
reason that
yeah,
would not
is
be
it,
accepted.
cost effective, and does it cover, we're not interested in co-insurance, we're taking that out. So that's not in this. But, does it cover, the same as a policy, business policy, on this particular property for liability?
Yeah, it's covered as
Okay,
incidental business, so yeah. But like I said, you're very limited on which carrier you can use. You know, a lot of the big ones nationwide, things of that nature, they won't do
they
it.
won't do it.
So, no.
Travelers does it, and it's half the price of business liability.
Travelers does it, is that
What
your?
is her name again?
No,
I
I-
can't remember. That's who my policy
It's
is
Rose
with.
Belcher.
I've got it with auto.
Rose? Okay, all right. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'm not sure how the flashlights got left in there. I thought we had discussed taking that out. It needs to come out. Everybody has a cell phone with a light on.
Before, it said working flashlights, and we discussed taking working out, so leave
Seems to me that I got one that went together, but okay. Let's see here. The safety deal, actually, I tend to agree with them, that even the owner-occupied B&Bs probably ought to be held to the same safety standards as the rest of them. I don't want to put any undue burden on anybody, but I've looked into this. Smoke detectors are cheap. It's one of the cheapest insurance policies you can get. You can buy 2 for $10 at Menards. Fire extinguishers, you can buy them anywhere from $8 to $20, depending if you want a refillable or disposable. There again, it's not a big expense. Things like that everybody should have. I would think it's common sense. Let's see, I wrote down a lot of stuff here while they were talking. the deal with the 6-month deal. Now, maybe I'm wrong on this, but if you're wanting to sell a guest house, if you keep the license up, I don't see that it makes any difference if people are going in and out of that or not. It wouldn't mean, I mean, operational means you've got a license to operate. It doesn't mean you have guests. If you're wanting to sell it, just keep your license up. Is that correct, Dave? It would still be an operational, it would not.
I would advise the city that if they kept their license up, then that doesn't start the 6-month clock running.
Yeah, okay. So it's not that if you just decide to close it down, as long as you've got a license, you can still sell your property.
Yeah, Dave, I think the way that works is, once a property's transferred, the new owner has a 6-month window to reinstitute the business. Now, if they reinstitute it sooner than that by getting their license to the new owner, then it's a mute.
Well, if they're buying it for a guest house or B&B, I would
Yeah.
think they would immediately apply, so I
Right.
wouldn't see that as a problem. The occupancy rule is going to be a problem, I can see that. Since the start, I've said several times, I really don't care if they want to jam 10 people in a closet, if people are willing to actually pay for that. I mean, who am I to tell them they can't? Now, there's a safety issue with that, I fully understand it. These people seem to think they will overcome that. I'm not real sure what to do with that. I know I've talked to several guest house owners, and they're not gonna do that, because if they put 2 more people in a room that's already full, they can't rent another room. So, I mean,
And also, there's been a suggestion by someone that I think is knowledgeable, that the simple way would be to take the number of beds and multiply them by 2. And that would give you everything you need to know. Whether or not, I explained that there are people that think the number should be 3. And probably somebody that thinks it should be 4 or 2.5. So we end up with that. But the concept, I think, is that there should be some maximum occupancy for the building. I'm not sure it's important by the room, although we have people that rent guest houses by the room. So how many people can they put in there?
well, it's a rough formula.
It's very
to do it.
difficult.
Olin made a very good point, these older houses, some of these small rooms, I mean, they're just not gonna fit.
Right.
I mean, they're not gonna fit in anything. Now, I know a lot of safety rules, even handicap standards are waived for historic houses, because they just simply cannot come in one way. And I don't know, if we get into that, we're gonna end up with a whole lot more regulation than what we really need to have.
Well, I think that's the sticking point, is how many people can you put in a whole house? And I think Dave came up with the idea that we measure the rooms and add them together, and that's a total number that's in the house, and we divide that by a number like 50 or whatever. That's how many people can be in the whole house, and how the landlord sees fit to distribute those people is up to the landlord. That's an idea we should consider.
As much as, I mean, a lot of hard work has went into this, and I appreciate everything everybody did, everybody that came here tonight, everybody that put their input in on it. But I just don't think we're gonna be able to vote on this tonight, guys. It's imperfect.
Okay.
We need to do better.
Okay.
I want it done too, but I just don't think this is gonna work.
Okay. Jim, do you have any comments on anything?
I do have a couple, of course. Rose brought up the carbon monoxide in the hallway. I think that's a no-no. I think that it needs a carbon monoxide sensor if you have a gas furnace or a gas stove. If you're total electric, then you don't need that carbon.
Isn't that in
But
there?
what if the carbon dioxide's coming from outside the house?
I will tell you that we just ran a call a couple weeks ago on a carbon monoxide. Good thing it went off, and they had a wood furnace.
Well, wood produces.
They're in the car
Not a building code, not a building code.
So anyway, I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
the
it's just a good thing to have.
It's a good thing to have.
Not a building code.
My research that, can you all hear me? Or is there too much?
Let's let the Alderman Shermer speak.
In a hallway, from my research I've done, and actually I just bought a carbon monoxide, because this brought it to attention to me. I have smoke alarms Then it dawned on me, I have a gas furnace. So I do now for $12.97 at Hermann Lumber have a carbon monoxide put up, so it's good. I did put it in the hallway because I have 3 bedrooms there. The hallways are not always the best because if you do have like a staircase going upstairs, a lot of times your staircase is a point of fire and your source goes up and your carbon monoxide, it's just not a good place for it. I think we should say 1 per level if you have to have one. A wood stove, thank you Bruce for pointing that out.
If you have a wood stove, wouldn't the smoke detector be set off though also?
Yeah, probably.
He's talking about an outdoor
Let's-
wood furnace.
Okay,
Well, but a regular smoke detector would work instead of a carbon monoxide.
all right.
No, 2 different
Yeah, this
things.
was a mini CO, it wasn't, had anything to do with the smoke.
Okay, Jim.
One other thing, Kevin brought it up, I didn't quite understand where he said we're trying to cut back their business by 25%. I haven't, don't know where he come with at that point. I think,
Jim, that's very important, okay? If you follow the federal standards on where you can sleep, or the standards he put on 2+1, that's 3 per bedroom. If I got 4 bedrooms, that's 4 people. You just knocked out 20%. And with the houses that we have here in Hermann, you do that by times 50, that's 200. That's how I arrived at those numbers. A little generic, but that's how I arrived at them.
Where is
okay?
that information, Kevin?
Pardon me?
2+1, where is that?
That's on your federal standards for bed and breakfast, motels, and guest houses,
Okay,
okay?
Thank
And
you.
that's what we followed, and I think it's a 12 by 12 room.
okay, thank you.
but
Um,
we had initially had put out, I think it said 4 people or 5 people per room. That's what we were looking at in the original ordinance. And I know that this would happen, that we would have an 8 by 10 room with 5 people sleeping in there. That's slum city. You can't do that. If you take one of your rooms in your house, and I measured each one of them. I found this 50% out there for the state of Utah, the city of Columbia, Missouri, and New Haven's got a similar one, Washington does. If you take a 12 by 12 room, that's 144 square feet. That's if the room is completely empty. Now let's put a regular sized bed, and I measure all that down too. That's gonna take up some of your square footage. You got a chest of drawers and a vanity in there. That's taking up more room. And then you have a chair to sit on. The main purpose is this, and everybody that has a guest house, everybody has a bed and breakfast inn, or a bed and breakfast is a business, not an individual like myself at my house. But you guys are businesses and you rent out, and I thank God for you guys. You guys helped the city of Hermann tremendously. But as a business, you have to protect your business, which is those people that stay there. Let's keep them safe, because none of us here would like to see the headlines, 6 people lost in a fire in Hermann, a bed and breakfast, and that would take in all of you, burnt down, they couldn't get out. There were 12 people in the house, but it's only a 2-bedroom house. You know, negatives will hit the paper. And Hermann, everybody in here is gonna get hit by that. What we're trying to do is help protect that. You would think that, well, I pretty much know, you guys take pride in your property. You save the old houses that's fallen in, spent a lot of money on them. But let's make sure we check everything. Same difference goes as everybody here knows what the speed limit is in Hermann. But does everybody drive it? No. Everybody knows you can't go in the store and pick up a 6-pack of beer and stick it underneath your coat. But do you do that? I would think common sense would guide everybody that you wouldn't bother your next door neighbor, or you wouldn't create something that could result in a tragedy. So that's something I've seen there, and then I've heard this, and I'll get off my horse. I've heard several of you mention there's things within this ordinance that need to be reviewed. I agree, there is things, but nobody narrowed down to one specific topic other than the CO2 in the hallway. So, do we have specifics? We had this 2 weeks ago. We had a small turnout. What I'm asking now is if you have specifics, let's have the specifics.
Okay. Well, if somebody that comes up, we'll take those too. One thing that I want to talk about, and we'll get down to Susan, is the amount of people in a room. And I still keep coming back to that. We're gonna have to either take that completely out or come up with something that I think is more workable and easier to manage. Like how many beds, bed time 2.5 or 3 or 2 or whatever. 4 or 5 people to the room. Just go by a total occupancy and let the people that run them decide how many people can be in each room, because I don't think they want to put 8 people in a room that should have 4 in it. Those people won't be satisfied, and they might be able to put them in another room. So my idea, my recommendation would be come up with a total occupancy for the entire house, but as long as we know how many rooms they're gonna rent, then let them put the people where they want them. And that I think might work.
With what you're saying there, when they initially applied for their conditional use permit, did they not put how many people they were going to have staying there? Isn't that a
It
requirement?
says how many rooms, it doesn't
How many
how many
rooms?
people.
Rooms or people?
Rooms.
A lot of people offer up how many occupancy, but
It's not required, I don't think, but we do ask how many rooms.
I thought it was how many people.
Well, we'll check on that.
I was gonna say,
I don't think
if
so.
that's a fact, that solves your problem. This is the rule that you're supposed to go by when they
Right.
fill out that application.
I agree. And that was, let's go down to Susan, and then we'll come back to Bruce and so forth. Susan, do you have any items you want to address?
Well, I want to say that I think no matter what we do on occupancy, somebody's not going to be happy because everybody has different occupancy rates and beliefs. So I think no matter what we pick there, somebody's not going to be happy. The people that are here are obviously people that care, and that's what we want, but there are some people that don't care. And that's part of where this stems from too, is safety. The only thing I'm thinking about is the inspections. Maybe they should be every other year instead of every year. Because I believe that's how the state does it, it's every other year.
No, it's every year. I called twice on it. They require, I don't know what they do for restaurants, but for lodging, it's every year. Annual inspections.
Well, when we first discussed this in the meetings, I think it was actually a biannual inspection, not an every year inspection.
I don't remember that, but we can do what we want, whatever. Okay, so it's every year for the state. And we've tried to actually, throughout this, be less strict than the state, which we can do. Well, I guess we can, we gotta do more stuff. Anyway, Susan, do you have anything else?
No.
Bruce, do you have anything? Or
You probably don't want to hear me because I have been pretty well against most of this from the beginning. I just, I don't want to take a lot of time, but as far as I'm concerned, the fee, we should not charge them anything. I just feel that, I know I'm a businessman, I have been for a long time. I wouldn't want somebody to come in and tell me how to run my shop and put my furniture on that wall or this wall. And in essence, that's how I don't like a lot of it. I definitely don't like the square footage thing. I'm definitely behind fire safety, and I don't want to sound that I'm not in favor of safety. I am, but I just think this is one of our biggest income producers for the city, and now we're gonna put a claw on it and possibly hurt that down the road. Maybe it won't, but I really think it will. Talking to one of the owners by this square footage thing, he's got several buildings and he would lose many, many beds by this requirement. Well, if he loses, let's say, 25% of his sleeping, how much money is that in our tax revenue? I mean, it's just, you know, and you just made a comment, answered a letter to somebody, you sent us a copy of how much money we're making and how much it's increased, and now we're doing something that, in my opinion, is gonna hurt that and decrease it. And I'm just not in favor of most of it. As far as I'm concerned, we can throw it away.
Well, the letter that I wrote stated that we have $6 million of lodging revenue, and we're up here now.
I'm just saying it.
No, but it's for lodging revenue. These people make that money. We don't get that.
Well, you get the bed tax.
Yes, but the bed tax must be spent, okay.
Sales tax.
We get the sales tax, but the lodging tax has to be spent on lodging improvements. So the 2% that we get right now, no, it's 2 now. It will be 3 next year.
Three right now.
No, it's 2, I'm sorry.
It's 3.
No.
We pay it every
We pay 8.1% now in sales tax. 4.1 goes to the state, 2 goes to the county, 2 comes to the city. In addition to that, for lodging establishments, they pay a 3% lodging tax that comes to the city and is used not for any city purposes, but is used for promotion of tourism. And so it's 2%. And the 2% of $1 million is 20,000, I said. So if it's $6 million, it's 120,000, which is nice money. That's good, but it's 120,000. It's not 6 million, so we should know that.
Could I say something? Anybody that owns a guest house in Hermann, Missouri, when we pay our real estate tax, we pay double our real estate tax if it's a guest house. You pay your real estate, you pay double, they charge you double if it's a guest house, plus you pay $200 per room and $100 for each room after that on your real estate tax. So you're not just getting your sales tax. We pay double our real estate. For every house you own, you pay double in real estate tax. Also that comes to our city.
Let me also say that our total real estate tax for the year, our receipts, is $150,000. We have the lowest real estate tax of any city within 75 miles of here.
But we still pay double.
Well, you may, but that's in the $150,000, so.
But if they were residential houses, you would not be receiving double. You wouldn't get the other half.
Well, we'd have, so you're saying we'd have less than 150,000?
Correct, you'd have, every guest house, you'd have half that.
That's right, I have not heard this before, but that's true.
I just went over my taxes because I didn't understand it.
But let me tell you, if you lived in Owensville, the property tax would be about 4 times what it is
And I'm not
here.
concerned about Owensville, I live in.
Well, I understand your comment, thank you.
Yeah.
And your name for the record? Thank you.
Your name?
Dawn Sanderlin.
Thank you.
Dawn
You're welcome.
Sanderlin, okay. It seems to me that we have an issue here of safety. It seems like everybody agrees with safety. And safety is, there are, except for a couple of things, which I will say is flashlights. We have talked about rechargeable plug-in flashlights in the wall that could be taken out in emergency and would come on if there was an electric shortage. But what I'm hearing is you don't think flashlights are important because we have cell phones with lights we can use. And the other thing is the chart that shows the occupancy per room. And as I stated, in my humble opinion, we should let the landlords decide how many people can go in each room. But we should have some limit on how many can be in the house. And this chart could be used for the same thing, but there's simple ways to do that too. And one of them would be the number of beds times the number. Another thing would be the total square footage, using the chart, dividing by 50 square feet per person or 70 square feet per person, as some people use. And so I think those are the two main things, and the fees. And the fees are the other thing that, and I'm trying to summarize now. And the fees are the other thing that seems to be controversy. I'm making a note here.
Bob, one other thing, I believe the gentleman up front asked about anything over 5 rooms having to have a state inspection.
It does.
That ain't us though, that's the state.
No, that's the state.
Okay,
And
just
see,
to
a
make
lot of
that
this-
clear, we don't tell the state to come and inspect that. That's a
think
state law.
Yeah.
But is that for a guest house or for a hotel motel?
What is your name?
I think anything over
They
5
call
rooms is
them-
considered.
They call them lodging establishments. And anything over 5 rooms.
It's not our ordinance.
It's not our ordinance.
The
Yeah.
state views a guest house, if you rent it to one person, as one unit, so it would not need to be. If you're renting it to one person, the whole house, the state does not inspect it.
Like that's if I was renting 5
That's-
different.
A court reporter, she cannot keep up with who is
I'm
speaking.
just putting
Okay.
someone who is.
That was Brant Wilkins.
That was
who
Brad
asked-
Wilkins' comment, and we will investigate that. I'm in the process of talking with the state inspector, and that's not what I understand, but I think he certainly should know. He's inspected every year, so we'll check into that. Thank you, Brad. Okay, there's a couple things on here that I think everybody should know, and I want to remind our board. A lot of this is already our ordinance. Some of these things, item 8, tourism tax which is not paid in 30 days after the last day of the calendar quarter shall be considered delinquent, that's already our ordinance. Some of the other things, we already have a fee for our business license, which is $32.50, and a fee for a new conditional use permit, which is $300. Those things are already in here. But what we don't, in the main part of this, what we don't have is the safety issues. Where's the map that shows how to get out? You can buy exit signs that glow in the dark, that cost about $2. I looked up a 3-bedroom house on 1-story guest house. All these items together are $104. And then I looked up a 4-bedroom guest house on 2 floors, and they're $127. So the stuff to meet the requirements that we have, which is the most important part of this, is very inexpensive. The item C, revocation of permit. That's already in our ordinances, that's not new. So that can already be in effect. So it still seems to me that we have the 3 items, the fees, the square footage that has to be changed, and what was the other one? Maximum occupancy? Okay. So those are things we need to discuss, and that, I think, should conclude our open session, and Dave, what do we need to do?
Mayor, can I ask a question on the square footage? I don't think
Right.
I've heard it yet. Did anybody at the board level think about like a standard hotel room? You got 2 beds, you got 4 people.
Yeah, we did, and I think that's a good point, and that's a good starting point, and that's pretty much what we did. Let me say that, and I think it's been alluded to by some of the people that spoke tonight and others, this has been going on for almost a year. Susan has had numerous meetings with people that actually own guest houses in the area. And has reviewed this with people and talked to people in other cities that have rules similar to this. This is not our attempt to do something in the last 30 days. This is something that comes distilled from a bunch of different places that do this. Guest houses, as everybody in this room knows, are becoming a national controversy, with Airbnb and so forth recently rescinding they're no longer taking reservations and telling people they can't have private parties. Not allowed to rent a room and have a private party. There's been people killed in California at some of these things and other issues. We don't want that. And I'm not saying, all this does is make the rooms across the board similar in terms of safety. We're not trying to legislate anything else, and I don't think that's the main purpose of this. So, but we did do our homework, we did talk to a lot of people. You'd be hard pressed to find a perfect ordinance anywhere on anything. They're never perfect. So I commend everyone that's worked on this, and I think now we should, we'll stop this hearing, and we'll move on with the rest of our business.
Could I ask one question first?
Yeah.
What is your name again? Greg Liver,
L-I-B-B-E-R.
L-I-B-B-E-R-T. It is a safety question. Number 8 with the 2 egress from the rooms, a door and a window. Somebody mentioned earlier with these all being old houses, is that window, you know, when this passes and the inspector comes, is the inspector gonna say, oh, that window's not gonna count? Or do we have some leeway there? Because these are old historical houses.
I think you always have leeway to talk with an inspector, person to person.
You know what I'm saying?
and explain.
Because some of these houses, especially like upstairs, they may not be a big enough window, so you got the stairs coming up. Whoa.
I think it's very important that you explain that, well, the window should open. If the
It should
window
open, but is there gonna be a legal size?
No, I don't
for
see
egress?
that.
That's-
Well, a person has to be able to get out. So if it's a porthole this big, that's not really it.
Right, no, I mean, you know, but
Yeah.
There's a legal OSHA required size.
there is, that's exactly
I
right,
don't
that's the
know
point I'm
what it
getting
is
to, I
off the
think
top
it's
of
8
my
square
head.
foot, I'm not exactly.
Well, I think that's where you go into the historic houses are gonna have.
That's why I'm going,
We're not
because these
gonna-
are all old historic houses, so we
We
don't wanna.
can't require anything, I think, that will violate the historic district or that would be in any way, ask for information, for instance, on the guest register. Yeah, we'd like to know who's staying there, but you don't have that information, so we can't ask that.
Well, I think some of that verbiage though, as far as you can just saying, well, you gotta have a window in it. It needs to make sure that it's acceptable, you know what I'm saying? It needs to be in there that we know that we're gonna be all right with.
Right.
That
well,
window that we have, then
yeah.
all of a sudden you're not gonna come in and say, oh, you can't use this upstairs because you can't get out of that window.
Mike,
I have one quick question. I mean,
give your name.
Michael Wayne, Pete, I have one quick question about this. I mean, how many people will, I know it's a house, but how many people during the holidays have put 5 people on their living room floor? How is that any different than him having a living room? Why can't he put 5 people in his living room? The number thing, I think, is the big problem.
It gets to the point, Mike, where it's
Because
commercial.
you're going by bedrooms, but you're not going by rooms in the house.
Yeah, we're going by what is called, and that was my problem with this ordinance, and everybody uses different terminology, sleeping room and guest room. To be fined, that can be any room that a bed can be put,
Okay. That's
except
what
the
I didn't
kitchen and the
understand.
bathroom.
And that's
So
what
he can put 5 in the living room if he wants to.
If as a guest house B&B classifies that living room as a sleeping room, then if you can get 5 people in there, and gosh, that has to be probably bigger than this room, you gotta be legal.
The state says it's a sleeping room if people sleep in it, and that's what we say. So we don't say this was a bedroom in 1945, so it's a bedroom now. So if you want to sleep people in the living room, then that's a sleeping room. And I think that's the way the state, we're trying to use the same terminology. So that's it. And that only comes into play if you have 5 or more rooms and then you fall over to jurisdiction by the state. So otherwise, that's not a real problem.
Can I ask one question real quick?
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. I purchased the house over on East 4th Street about 1.5 years ago, and I was kind of curious on how that was going to play out with the conditional use permit, because I kind of waited on the city for over a year to demolish the house. I was trying to help you guys out with the grant program, and I waited, and waited and waited and it didn't come through. So I finally got it, asbestos removed and knocked down, which we have a foundation in the ground now, but am I gonna be able to get a permit to build my guest house there now that this is all happening? I mean,
Well, I don't see why you wouldn't.
What's it zoned?
it's zoned R2.
Actually, that street was rezoned some years back to allow guest houses.
Yeah, it is, I don't see that.
Well, it's R2, well, I have to get a conditional use permit. If my building process is still going on, if this ordinance gets enacted, because.
Did you,
You just have to apply for it, that's all. I mean,
yeah. Okay.
You guys could place any conditions you want, even though I waited over a year.
That's the problem, is you guys are doing the conditional portion of it.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, can I
We'll
say
have to
one
look
thing
at
and
that.
everybody will agree on it?
sure, Kevin.
One queen size bed, 2 people. I think everybody in here can agree. If there's 5 bedrooms and you have 2 beds in it, 4 people can sleep in it. Or if you have 1 queen size, 2 people can sleep in it. I think it's fair.
Say that again, Kevin, because
1 bed, 2 people. It's gotta be a queen size or better. It's fair. Okay, or okay. If there's 2 of them in a hotel situation somebody just asked about, most of them are like that. My rooms are all, I used to call them big until we got into this. But they fit 2 beds, you walk around both sides, make the bed, you got an area in the middle. And I'm more welcome to show anybody. But that ought to be the standard you guys ought to try to get to. And I think most of us on that point will be happy. 1 bed, 2 people.
Well,
1 bed, 2 people.
I like that, Kevin, but you're gonna get back into here, some of these historic houses, you're gonna have a hard time getting a queen size.
Then
bed.
it's not safe, Dave. Yes, then it's not safe in my mind. I'm thinking about safety too. We don't want to overcram these houses, somebody step on somebody's neck because they're sleeping on the floor.
So,
That's what this is all about.
Let me see if I got this. Let's say we have a small room and you can only put a single bed in there. That's 1 person. It's a real small room, only a single bed, 1 person. But if the room's big enough to have a queen bed, it's 2 people. If the room's big enough to have 2 queens, it's 4 people.
Yes, sir.
So basically, queen bed or bigger, 2 people per bed, smaller than a queen, 1 person per bed.
Full beds.
2 full beds should be 4.
Unacceptable.
Like, it gives me more time to think about this. Can we have a meeting where you invite us and we all discuss this?
That's what this is for, Brad.
So, but you're gonna rewrite it, so let's have us involved in the rewrite.
Well, that's why we are here. We're listening to you and we're gonna take what you say into consideration.
Okay, then I would like to say, the big difference is you're taking R2 back to R1. That's gonna drop property values throughout the city. So that's the big thing that we're doing here.
That's not at all what's going on.
It is, because you're gonna go from not needing a conditional use permit to needing a conditional use permit.
We used to have.
So do you think if somebody's gonna invest $300,000 into a home in this town, they're gonna be willing to, the next year, somebody tell them they can't have their business?
Brad, we're not doing that, and that's not what we wanna do here. I'll take 1 more and then we're gonna adjourn this.
I
Rand?
just want to bring up a point, that if you just limit it to 2 people per 1 bed, queen or larger, one thing you have to consider is every once in a while you get a couple that travels with a child. They're coming in for a family funeral or wedding. And I don't normally take children in my B&B, but if they tell me they're very quiet and well behaved, maybe it's a 12-year-old that has good manners or whatever, and they say it's okay to sleep in the bed with us, parents don't mind, I don't really have a problem with that. So I don't.
Would they stay in the same room?
Yeah, of course, the
Same bed even?
12-year-old would stay in the same room with the parents. I just don't want to be in a situation where I could say, no, you can't have your child in your bed with you because the city won't allow it. So
Okay.
I just think that we have to, maybe it goes back to that 2.5 thing you said.
Okay.
We have to take in fact the children sometimes are with their parents.
Okay, Dave, what else do we need to do? We're gonna wrap this up.
I think just to ask if anybody else has anything that they'd
Well,
like to say.
We've done that twice.
I got one thing to say.
Okay.
Dennis Sperry,
How do you spell your last name?
Sperry. So who will be governing this amount of people?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, none of us want to overstuff these houses.
Right.
It'll destroy the house, it'll cost us money in the end.
Right.
We put an amount of people that we want on the list, on Airbnb, Vrbo, wherever we're advertising, correct? So you have 13 people on your list. 14 show up.
I don't see the 14th person because they tell me we have 12. They sneak them in. Who governs this?
That's kind of on you, I mean, nobody,
Okay, that's, you
nobody
know,
is gonna come.
I just didn't know if you guys were gonna have somebody going around trying to
No,
police things.
no, that's never been.
And-
almost
but-
impossible. That's
Exactly.
impossible, and it's
So, I mean,
not
my
the
point
intent.
is on that ordinance, it's almost a waste in an extent. But I do like Bruce's idea here, you know, I say I can hold 13. I write
Okay.
that down. You know, and then, but if I wanna say I can hold 15, that's on me, it is not on you guys. It comes,
Okay.
you know, somebody gets hurt, obviously, all of us get hurt in the long run, but it comes back to me.
But it would be between you and the building, the ordinance inspector to kind of show them how you're gonna fit 13 or 23 or 15 or however many in the house, and just explain it.
Yeah, well, that's just what I was
But
asking.
we're not coming in at night to count it.
Well, yeah.
And I don't want, I really don't, it's not up to me. It's up to all these folks up here. I don't think we should really try to say how many people can be in a room. I think we're okay, that's just my opinion. We're okay with saying, you say 13, you say you have 5 rooms, show me the 5 rooms. Show me the 4 rooms, and that's good to go. And the reason we need a maximum occupancy is because I'm sure that there are, if you have, for instance, the guy that rented the house in California on Airbnb, and they told him you can't have any extra people, it's only for 6. You can't do anything else, you can't have parties, you can't shoot fireworks off, you can't da-da-da-da-da. So he went back on Facebook, said, party at 123 East 2nd Street, we'll go all night, anybody's welcome, come one, come all, bring your own booze and whatever you want, and et cetera, and had over 100 people. None of them knew each other, and it was 6, he was supposed to have 6.
Yeah.
None of them knew each other, and the one guy had a gun, and they got into fights, and he shot and killed 5 people. Now, that's not gonna happen here, I'm sure. However, the fact is that he had 100 people instead of 6, and it's gonna be pretty hard to explain to a judge that I didn't really think that anything would happen like this, or the furniture would get smashed, the walls kicked in, etc. You broke the law, you broke the rules, you had 20 times more people than were supposed to be there. So that's what it's for. But is somebody gonna come in the middle of the night? No. So,
I think one thing that might protect you all is if you go into a bigger municipality, when you go into restaurants, sometimes you'll see a sign, max occupancy, 185 people. Same thing, put it on your doorway, so when you're renting a place, you tell them my max, but you got a sign there. I mean, it's not gonna stop them probably, but I think liability wise, it might protect you a little bit. Well, I didn't know there was 10 people,
well,
I'm only allowed 6.
All of us
It's
have.
just an idea that I'm throwing out there.
I mean, all of us have a contract that they sign when they sign up, and they are liable right there.
I think that's in here, Bruce, if it was at one time. It is in here that says it'll be posted on the inside of the front door.
Inside or even on the outside, so, well, it might be good to have it on the outside, that way if fire department, if we do have a call, we come up and say max occupancy 6, you know.
Put it on both. Okay, that's the questions.
Good question.
I only had one more
This is the
thing.
last one, Mr. Durham.
Okay, I only had one more thing that, I was gonna bring it up before. I understand all the work that's been involved, but with people talking tonight, I would encourage the alderman to table, because this ordinance is coming up for a vote. I would encourage this to be tabled and then gone back and looked at.
Well, I think that's been already discussed, and that looks like that's the direction we're going. Olin, I know you're standing up patiently and want to say something.
Thank you. Just one question. You made the statement that most of these provisions are in the ordinances. Why are reinventing the wheel without revising the key points affecting safety and occupancy?
Well, first of all, I didn't say most, I said a lot of them. But at any rate, they're not just in our ordinances, a lot of these are state ordinances. And if you reach 5 people or more, you're gonna have to comply with theirs as well. My point was that this is not stuff we arbitrarily made up. A lot of these are already rules, and you're already under the, I guess, jurisdiction of these things. So, what we want to do is make sure that the safety portions of this are inspected, and that everybody, you'd be surprised what's out there, and that everybody is uniformly held accountable for fire extinguishers, smoke alarms, CO2 detectors, and et cetera, et
I
cetera.
understand perfectly.
Okay. thank
And
you.
I'm not trying to get at our city attorney's revenue stream, but I just think revisions.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay, well, we stand, this stands adjourned, and what else do we need to do? That's it?
That's it.
Okay, now we're gonna move to the rest of the meeting, but we're gonna take 5 minutes first. And, we're gonna be able to relax for 5 minutes, go to the bathroom, or whatever, so we'll take a 5-minute adjournment.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. Is that gonna go off?
It's rolling. So the cameras,
You're on.
we're still streaming.
We're still on.
You don't let people.
Yeah, I got most of them. Like talking to the back. Some of it's gonna say, unknown speaker. I remember those days. You still have to say something. Yeah, no, that's all. We're gonna let people. Sometimes I will. I wasn't doing this. I said, but I wasn't doing this one by YouTube, but I was here. Oh, yeah, for sure. Thanks for
Yeah, you're right. It don't work though.
It's all legal.
I'll find another town.
You know, maybe we
That was our argument.
You go into that whole
That way we
Water is killing.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, I believe it's all
Is that, I was gonna say, is that
$160 for a bottle of water. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Medium burger.
We have one country cottage right next to
Crossing alley from.
They look familiar.
Is that Natalie behind the Green Graphics place?
right next to the side street.
Okay.
On the shower, I got it from a local company.
Well, we'll keep it.
Yeah, I have it.
Thanks, Grandma.
I have it, yeah.
Okay, the next,
Weldon Spring?
It's been 9 months.
It feels like it.
I'm gonna taste the fruit in 2 years.
All these people come for you?
That's the big one.
Thank you, dear.
Flashlights was I won't go for you to take that out.
flashlights?
No, to charge, not charge. Oh, I thought you said charge.
No, it's a
One flat, CO2
We're ready to go. Let's get this road on the
Well, let's just keep going. He don't run the meeting yet.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna stir up some flames after the first doing it now.
All right, Bruce, are we ready?
Let's do this.
All right. We're back in order with our business meeting. The next item is the mayor's report, which I'm going to forego this time so we can move on. The next item is the city administrator's report, and that is presentation of the MRPC award to Ed. And Mark and I are gonna do that right now. So Ed and family come forward, or Ed, come forward. And here, you take this one.
You did. One's from the Senate, Hospital.
Please face over here, Ed, and come on in the middle, and Mark, you can stand over there.
Yeah.
This is an award that Ed was given by the state of Missouri, and I'll read a little bit of it. And it basically says, whereas the members of the Missouri Senate find it altogether right and proper to pause from time to time to recognize outstanding Missouri citizens. And whereas the members now pause to recognize Ed Deanne's esteemed resident of Gasconade County, who is being honored with an award for outstanding achievements in solid waste management by the Ozark Rivers Solid Waste Management District. And whereas Ed will be publicly recognized during the Ozark Rivers Solid Waste Management District's annual awards banquet, which he was. And whereas the Ozark Rivers Solid Waste Management District serves Crawford, Dent, Gasconade, Marysville, Pulaski, Washington counties, whereas the Ozark River District has these annual awards and outstanding achievements in solid waste management, recognizes individuals, organizations, and businesses that have made significant contributions in managing and reducing waste. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the members of the Missouri Senate 100th General Assembly, extend our most sincere congratulations to Ed on this illustrious occasion with our best wishes for a continued success. Congratulations, Ed. And he has another award, I believe,
This is actually, this is Ozark River Solid Waste Management District presented to Ed for outstanding achievement in service to the public 2019. And this plaque is actually made from leftover countertop that they didn't want to. They
Thank you, Ed. We appreciate everything you do every day for the city of Hermann. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Give him his award.
I'd like to say real quick, if you have any doubt that why Ed got that award, if you'd have seen the recycling center before Ed took over and what it looks like now, you would not question that award at all.
I just try to throw something away that shouldn't go there.
Okay, now the next item of business is the ordinance itself. And I am going to table this until our next meeting, which may be a special meeting. We have some other issues that we need to discuss, so we may schedule a special meeting between now and Christmas. Time is of the essence to get these things done. I think that the best thing to do here, I've identified three things: the chart, the chart on occupancy, the fees, and the flashlights. Those would be the three things I think. I would eliminate the flashlights. I would say I'm fine with eliminating the fees, and then the other chart we need to rethink that. And I think the chart is worthwhile, but we might want to use it in a different way. So,
One other thing, I just told her about the ones with the fire extinguisher, if you have a kitchen fire extinguisher and then one in the hallway. That's really not a requirement. Square footage, just one.
Would you, okay, then one, let's get that.
What I'm saying is, in other words, like if this was the kitchen and that's the hallway, you're gonna have one here and you're gonna
And
have
some
one
of them
outside.
don't have hallways.
There you go. What I'm saying is
So
that.
one per floor.
Yeah.
One per floor, okay. And then Susan, if you have something, it's okay if you want to just write it down tonight when you get home and send it to Dave. And I think we have yours, Dave, but if you have something.
Well, I just was questioning the insurance requirement.
The
Because
insurance
we
requirement?
were going with the heavy duty insurance when they were very clear that
Well, I
some of
talked
the
to-
homeowners insurances will cover it. We thought they didn't.
Well, instead of, it could be an easy fix. Right now it says business commercial liability insurance. Maybe we just scratch the words business commercial. Just say you have liability insurance.
Well-
If they're able to get it as a rider on their homeowners.
But it has to be, insurance that actually covers it.
They're gonna get a better deal from the insurance company. They're already dealing.
Well, what I'll do is I'll check with the insurance agent that we talked about, and his company won't write this, I'm pretty sure. But if he says that it's available, it doesn't seem to me that we should require a commercial policy if an acceptable rider, maybe that's how we should word it, an acceptable rider on their homeowner's policy is sufficient. So,
Are we gonna keep the amounts the same?
well, I think they should be, because that's a minimum coverage. Now, we'll have to, I'll check around too and make sure we're okay. Is there something else you have, Jim?
No, sir.
Okay, if anybody thinks of anything, in the meantime, send an email to Dave saying what it is, and copy me, and then Dave can get started working on that. And we will table this till the next meeting. Okay, that brings us up to, Dave, you want to take over at number 2019-54?
Under ordinances, bill number 2019-54 would be an ordinance to revise Schedule 8 of Title 3 Traffic Code, handicapped parking. And Mark had a request from a lady who had a note from the doctor requesting that a certain space be designated handicapped, and she didn't have enough room on her lot to put a driveway or a parking spot, and so this was requested. And I don't think that we can make a private parking space for this person, but I think it's legal to designate a handicap space if you're so inclined.
And that's what this is for. Any discussion of that?
I was thinking it's for 16 feet, because if I serve me right, that's on the hillside and there's
Angle parking.
angle parking, where I think where it's parallel parking, 16 foot would be a normal length of a car. So if it's angle parking, how many parking spaces will 16 feet take up? Just one?
We measured it
Oh, you did?
from stripe to stripe.
I was thinking it may take up 2 or 3.
Typically, the curb parking on the curb is like 20 to 21 feet.
So is that on the hill? I didn't go.
Where
Yes.
is it,
right
Mike?
at. Okay.
Yes.
Where is it? Is it?
First
On
Street.
First Street.
Oh, okay.
Across from the courthouse? is
Yes,
that
sir.
Okay, so we want to designate one of those as handicapped.
Yes.
What if she doesn't get it?
Yeah, that could be the same.
What if somebody else pulls in there with a
That's
handicap?
just, we cannot, according to our city attorney, we can't designate that for
Okay.
one person. But
But we can do our best, and that would be,
yes.
okay.
Well, we don't have enough handicap parking in town anywhere. But we don't
Okay,
have
so-
enough parking, period. So
Do we want to take a vote on this or discuss this some more?
I will move to approve it.
I'll second.
We have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, we're into old business, discuss the Chamber's concerns regarding funding. There's been communication back and forth with Melissa, myself, and Dave. And I understand Karen Held is just back from her time away. And so I think you have a meeting tomorrow at 10, is it?
No.
No, okay. Well, she hasn't had a chance to work on Dave's request, and I sent some information, and I did see that you sent something back. So tonight, I think we need to just wait until we get a chance to evaluate all of the back and forth information that's being sent. However, I think there may be, well, that may be under new business. AT&T cell tower update. My quick response on that is that we're in communication with AT&T. We're waiting for a stamped engineer's drawing of the base for the tower, which we don't have. As soon as we get that, we can proceed with the permitting to get them started. And my understanding, Dave, is that it's in their court right now.
The AT&T cell tower?
Yeah, well, I guess it's not yours. That's actually Mark's.
Yeah, it's in their court. We're waiting for those stamp plans.
Okay, we've got to have those, and then we'll look at them quickly and turn them around. Okay, Calibi pull attachment and franchise fees. We are in process, Dave and I and the Calibites attorneys and so forth, of designating, we believe we have already allowed them, or ordinance-wise, told them to collect the fee legally. And so they'll be in the process of evaluating that and making sure that we can do this. There is some concern that we're not allowed to collect franchise fees from internet providers. But we put in the agreement, something to the words that said, in the event that this is, in the future becomes inappropriate or illegal or whatever, you will find another way to generate fees to us in the same amount, which is 5%. So we'll get our money one way or the other. But we just have to sort through it. I think Ken Hines says it's legal. He says we can do it. They're saying just tell us to do it. And right now, Dave is talking to their attorney. So we'll either tell them to do it or tell them to do it based on some of the wording. We're going to get our money. Okay, 911 consolidation. I've talked with Lisa Clark over there. We are sending her a list of items that Vera has come up with that are duties that our dispatch now performs. And her instructions, she's going to call me tomorrow, will be to tell us which ones you can do for free according to our specifications and standards of acceptability, and then tell us which ones you can do if you have to charge us for, and which ones you can't do. Once, then she's gonna talk to Vera on the phone with any questions. Once that's done, then we'll see where we go. I promised that we would do this when the people voted on the street tax, and I'm doing it. So that's what we're doing there. Under old business, Dave, do you wanna bring up your,
Yeah. We discussed, I talked with you guys, I've talked to a few others. The bed tax is currently 3%. Our tourism board, our tourism director has done a wonderful job with the money that's coming in. The requirements of this is probably gonna require more money, but it is gonna require more money in the future. We can legally raise that tax by the voters to 5%. I think it is time to do that. Alderman Shermer here in the past is, we were looking for ways to keep more money in the general revenue fund. One of them is the tourism director's salary. This money would pay for the tourism director's salary, and our general fund would probably benefit by about $50,000 to $70,000, depending on how you look at it. Also, we have discussed with the, just opening discussions with the chamber, us taking interest in the visitor center. Without this extra money, that would be impossible to do that. I think it's a good time to do it. I can't see any downside to it. It won't cost the citizens of Hermann one penny. It won't affect tourism whatsoever. It's a pass-through tax. It's no extra paperwork for anybody. I mean, it's just a matter of, it comes right through them and right to us. It's extra revenue for our tourism. It'll bring more people to Hermann. And I would like to make a motion tonight that go on the April ballot. We're within a window that we have to meet, but I'd make a motion to put that on the April ballot.
Can I ask a question before we
Yes, sir.
proceed? You, chamber and everybody's on board with it now? You've had enough
No,
meetings?
they're not. I mean, I don't know really what their opinions are, but we're gonna have to educate the public on whether the chamber's on board on it or not. If we don't spend the money, with the tourism center, the welcome center, it's just more money for tourism. It's more billboards out on the
Well, I
highway.
understand the concept. I don't have a problem with it. I just think.
No,
they should support it.
Everybody's been kind of waffling about it, but
I think they should
it's
too.
good all the way around.
But they're a separate group, and I think some of them think it's a good idea, and some of them don't. And,
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was.
No, it's quite all right. It's a good question, Bruce, but I can't give you a good answer on it. Tourism really hasn't had a chance to discuss it because Karen was out, but we've got a window we've got to meet.
Well, if you're gonna put it on the April ballot, you
Yeah.
gotta get it done.
We've got to get it done by January 18th, I believe.
Yeah, we've only got one or two
And
more
we have
meetings to
no-
get the
right.
wording right and everything. and get it
So
on.
it seems to me that it might be a good idea, and I don't know procedurally if we vote to do it now or we wait.
You have to pass an ordinance to place it on the ballot.
But we have to have the ordinance. So I think what we've got to do, this is my opinion, because we've got the ordinance concerning guest house safety, that we come up with a meeting, a special meeting, to discuss only those two things between now and Christmas, which we could do it anytime, next week, or which is the week of the 16th, 17, 18, 19, 20, here. And we can cover both of these things. Dave can have changes made so we can look at it for the guest house ordinance and have an ordinance drawn up so we can read it and pass it. We can do it both at
Let me
once.
clarify, whatever changes are made to the ordinance are gonna be your all's changes.
Right. Right, absolutely. But he makes the, he's the
I'll
official
key it in,
stenographer.
and,
He's the
I'll
stenographer.
be the scrivener.
Right, he's the scribe.
He's making it legal for us.
Well,
Everything
right,
is above-
and so I didn't mean to say he was gonna write it. That's our job. Okay, so it seems to me, Dave, that there's wording that he can come up with, and I would like to see us have a meeting. What about next week, the 18th?
Well, you got a motion on the floor though.
Well, I'm sorry, I'll withdraw that motion for the minute till we get done with
Right.
this, but
Well-
I would like to see this worded in such a way that it's very clear that this money is only to be used by law for tourism-related purposes. That's already come up. Well, how do we know, that's always the last argument to anything. How do we know we're gonna use the money for that? Well, by the original ballot language, when the 3%, it cannot be used for anything else.
So, and by state law and by our own ordinance, it specifically says that, so.
Right.
our-
It needs to be stated clearly, though.
And people need to spread the word that it will
Yes.
be used for that and not this,
I think-
oh, how do we know?
We need to get the word out. If we're gonna do this, then we have some education to
And it
do.
doesn't cost the voters,
Exactly.
One penny.
it will make them money
Yes.
extra by freeing up.
That has to be
general fund.
explained though, because a lot of people do not understand that.
That's up
Okay.
to us and whoever helps us to get it
How
done.
does everybody's schedule on the, let's say 18th, 17th or 18th look?
What days was that?
That's Tuesday and Wednesday.
I probably won't be here the 18th.
What about the 17th?
I'm clear.
Yes, as far as I know, I can.
17th, Susan, you can be here?
I think I can, yes.
Yeah.
Jim? Okay, and I
Are
can
we
be
gonna do
here.
AM or PM, or is that to be determined?
That's, what time should we have the meeting?
I can't do it during the day.
Evening, 7 o'clock? 7 o'clock,
Works for me.
Tuesday, December 17th, we'll call a special, a
Can we do it
special meeting.
earlier? Could we do like 5,
Dave?
5:30?
Deliver furniture that day.
You're, yeah, you can,
Yeah, but we have to be there.
you just have to post notice and agenda and all that stuff, and you can pick any time you like.
What, you wanna do it earlier?
I do.
Bruce, when can you do it? 6?
Well, we can shoot for that. I got a furniture delivery in Columbia, and then I have to go to Lynn with the second one, so.
So you think you'll
I
be,
should be back by 5:30.
let's shoot for 6. Okay? Let's call a special meeting. I'm gonna call it for the 17th. At 6 PM, and the agenda will be guest house and, tourism tax increase from 3 to 5%. And Dave will have as a scribe, he will have the verbiage for us to approve. Then that, we can do the second reading the next time, if we need to, we can do it twice. Does that require a motion, or we just do it? Okay, we're just gonna do that, that's.
Okay.
Okay, so that, Dave, that's what you have.
Yep. 69 line, did I bring that?
69 lines. Dave is in,
I spoke to Central's attorney at length about that. She was very positive about it. She's done it with other cities. She's done it with us in terms of accepting a transfer of facilities. And so she had 3 or 4 issues that she wanted to look into, including whether or not we have any other facilities or lines or equipment within this easement area. And I think Mark and Jesse have looked into that and have made a couple of comments, so we're moving forward.
Okay.
okay. Okay. Now, the next item of business is to discuss a draft ordinance, an ordinance to approve legal services agreements between the city of Hermann, Missouri and Zick, Boss, Polite, and Richardson, PC, for city attorney and assistant city attorney services, and to amend Urban Municipal Code section 110.160. Dave, do you want to explain? I would go to, I know you haven't had any increase for many years, and do you want to explain it?
Yeah, well, first of all, the 2 parts to this ordinance. One would be to change section 110.160. If you look at our code right now, it still has language that's very old from when the city attorney used to be paid a flat fee to attend meetings and do a few other things, and then charge an hourly rate for everything else. And we changed that, I think, in the municipal years, maybe even before that. You know, when I was first appointed in 2004, we had city meetings that tended to go till 10 or 11 o'clock, and then the flat fee wasn't fair to me. And then after that, we changed mayors and aldermen, and the meetings were all over by 7:30, 7:45, and then the flat fee wasn't fair to the city. And so we said, why don't we just do it purely hourly? So that's the main change for that section. And then the auditors like for cities to have written agreements with their attorneys and their engineers and other people who provide professional services, which was an excuse for me to look and see when the last time we increased the hourly rate was, and it was January 2013. It went to $140 an hour, and I would respectfully request that that be increased from $140 to $160. When I started in '04, it was $110. Between '04 and '13, it went from $110 to $140, so we go from $140 to $160. There's also a memo in here from Kevin, who does all our prosecuting attorney services. He's still at $110, asking for the same rate that I would get for him doing the prosecuting attorney services. So.
This just as an aside, does Kevin, I know he has to wait a long time, so, because our cases come up last in municipal court, seems like. And he just has to be here, doesn't he? Okay.
Is this gonna change anything when the county takes over?
Well, it kind of goes to Mayor's comment, I believe, because right now, with municipal court here, when he comes to court and all there is municipal court cases, he's working with those cases all the time. Whenever it goes to circuit, the clerk will put it on a docket, and like, as you say, it might be at the end of a docket that has a bunch of other stuff on it. We lawyers, and Kevin in particular, get pretty good at knowing that we don't have to show up until 9:45 if we don't have to show up until 9:45, you know, so I don't see him sitting around for clock time, yeah.
Okay. Okay, now the next question I have is for Trish. Do we have this in the budget?
Well, we budgeted an allotted amount of money, so we should be mindful of trying to stay in our budget, so
Right,
just.
that's right. We always do, so we.
But that goes to usage.
Well, it does, that's part of it too. We have done a lot of things this year with 2 street attempts, and one successfully, and several large scale ordinances, and a lot of back and forth on other things that unfortunately are part of the business too. So I know that but can we cover this for the rest of the year in the existing budget?
I mean, I think we have to, yeah. I mean, well, we can make it work.
Just
I mean,
asking.
like I said, we have an allotted amount that's
I'm just
any line
asking.
item.
Okay.
It's hard, with any budget, correct me if I'm wrong, with any budget expense item, sometimes you go over budget and sometimes you're under budget, and you do a budget amendment ordinance usually in June to adjust things, and, you know, and with professional fees and attorney fees, you know, there's 2 factors. There's the hourly rate, and then there's the time spent. And I think you just don't know what projects are going to come up between now and June, or will the city get sued, or will the city decide to sue somebody, or will we have, you know, big ordinance projects. And so I think as Tricia alluded to, the time spent on projects is really more of a factor than what the rate is.
Okay.
This is to go into effect first of the year, is that what's the, doesn't say anything on here that I see that.
If you're willing to consider it, yeah, that's what I would propose. It's just on for new business tonight, it's not on for first reading. You maybe have a first and second reading in the 2 meetings in January, and have it be effective January 1st for the bill that the city gets in the middle of February.
Okay. So, this is just a discussion, and to let everybody know it's coming. Do we need to, we shouldn't need to have any vote on it.
No, you can think about it.
Think about it, and I think it, you know, to go from 140 to 160 after 10 years or whatever it's been.
Can we get a pay raise?
Sure.
Don't even bring that up.
We could get a 10%. So now you're gonna get 220.
Well, 1.6 like Social Security.
Okay. All right, why do we have, I don't think we have any sheets for citizens' comments.
I have new business.
More new business, okay.
We are doing the Christmas wishes on Friday night, and I spoke with Marlon about it, but I wanted to ask the alderman too. Would there be any way that we could close 4th Street from Schiller to Gutenberg from 5 to 7:30 p.m. because we're gonna have lots of little kids running around there?
I have no problem with it.
Schiller, where is it, Schiller and,
Schiller to Gutenberg,
okay,
4th Street. That one
4th Street,
block.
Schiller to Gutenberg. From what hours?
From 5 to 7:30 p.m.
Okay, so,
It may not even be that long.
when does the event start?
It starts at 6 and set up as.
Okay, so 5,
When is that?
Friday night, Friday the 13th.
Ooh.
It's gonna be great.
Well, I got a fire meeting tomorrow night, I'll tell them it's gonna be closed.
okay, is that, can we do it?
So moved.
Okay,
I'll say.
it's moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, very good. I'll be there. Citizens' comments, like I said, we don't have any more.
I do want to say something if I can.
Sure.
To address the last decision about the Schiller Street closing, being that live in Schiller Street, can the city be a little more diligent about letting the residents know in advance? Because sometimes when that street is getting closed, we don't know until the day of when things are being suddenly stapled up or the night before. It would just, for the sake of the citizens that live on the street and usually park in the street because they don't have any other places to park, it would be nice if the little flyer that they could be stuck in their doorknob or on their door somewhere, letting them know a day ahead, at least 24 hours notice, so that they're not caught off guard that their street's closed and they can't come home and park in front of their house. Just so they
Streets
know.
closed only for people drive through, but still, people that live there are able to park there.
They will be able to park,
They're just only
okay.
closed for traffic.
Yeah, you'll have local
Okay.
traffic still be
Traffic
allowed.
can still park there.
Okay,
For
so-
residents.
Okay,
But
that
if you don't
solves
live
that.
there, then you can't go down the street until after the time of enforcement. If you have to park from your house and live there, then you should go park there.
Okay, all right, now I'm good with that. Then the other thing is, in the old business, I don't represent the lodging council, but I will say that my feeling about the overall climate in the lodging council regarding the 5% tourism tax, increase to 5%, is most people don't feel like it will impact the people coming to stay at their businesses. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I do have people asking me how much is the total with tax, especially if they're buying a gift certificate. Like this is the time for people buying gift certificates for other people. They kind of want to know what they're going to spend, so they say how much is it with the tax, so they get an overall budget idea of what they're spending. The way it might impact my business is somebody might choose a lesser priced room, or they might choose a higher priced room based on what the total cost is going to be. So if you say it won't affect the business owner at all, I disagree. It could affect the business owner to a certain degree to have a higher tax. Then as far as the use of that tax goes, I think the lodging council was concerned. You say the definition of the use of the tax is to promote tourism. My question is, does not supporting the Welcome Center fall into that definition of supporting tourism?
Absolutely.
And then if it does, why do we not first, before we put this to ballot, come to an agreement between the city and the chamber as to how they would mesh their interface in running the Welcome Center, being that we've already learned that the Welcome Center, when run solely by the chamber, is having a little bit of a financial issue right now and is looking to the city for potential help. And the city's response has been, well, we'll just take over and we'll run it for you. I don't personally believe the city running the Welcome Center is the best solution. I would rather see an agreement between the city and the Welcome Center on how duties are divided, how expenses are divided, how they can work together. And I don't see that as a misuse of tourism dollars, especially considering that the lodging industry is the primary source of those tourism dollars. It's off the backs of our hard labor. So if we feel that the Welcome Center is being efficiently run by the chamber and we like the way the chamber's doing it and we feel like it helps promote our businesses, then why would we want the city to take over something that we feel is already operating fairly well as it is, with exception to the financial situation. So I would just like to see the city and the chamber come together without the costly strategic planning report. I know it was mentioned there might need to be a strategic planning report, a 5-year plan for down the road. We don't need to get involved with strategic planning reports. Let's just be common sense. Sit down, city, welcome center, sit down, come up with an agreement. How can we funnel some of the tourism dollars over to the welcome center to make sure that they can have the number of hours open that are important for when the tourists are here. Now, I'm not opposed to maybe the welcome center opening a little later in the day. Maybe it doesn't have to open first thing in the morning. Maybe it can always be, you know, a later in the day opening hour. But I still think it's better managed by the chamber overall, and that's just my opinion. And that's sort of the climate the lodging council was going. And then the other thing I want to address is new business of the streets. I don't know how much funds are there now for street maintenance, but I feel like our streets are very poorly delineated as far as striping goes, especially if you look at Gutenberg Street. You can barely see where that middle line is. And the worst part about it, the middle line is not in the middle of the street. If you're driving, it's off to one side. So if you're a newcomer and not some resident like me, you wouldn't necessarily know that the line is like 2/3 over to one side, and you know it's not down the middle of the street. So you're going to be driving in an odd fashion, you know, in accordance to that line. Then the other problem we have on Gutenberg Street, and when I pulled in the parking lot here tonight, it reminded me of it. I noticed you all have cones out there by your corner because you have a post there, an electrical box, and you don't want anybody missing that corner and driving into the electrical pole. Well, the same thing we have down at Gutenberg Street. You got odd curves coming out from where the stables are and all of that that are not painted with reflective paint. It is hard to see when you're driving down that street that those curves are jutting into the street, and somebody could accidentally drive over top of that curb and damage their car or have an accident. So I don't know why those aren't painted with reflective paint, including where you turn to go on 4th Street from Gutenberg Street. There's a funny curve there too. So it's just not, it's an irregularly shaped street with an irregularly placed center line. So let's do more to make it so that people.
Mark said he'll
can find it.
paint it.
I don't even know why it has to have a center line. No other street in town has a center line.
And I'll say one thing about the chamber and the city and the welcome center.
Well, that's even worse with that center line.
I think that you're right. I think the chamber and the city should get together and have meetings on it and see how they want to handle it. That should be them, not the city deciding. Let them recommend to us. We can final say so. The problem here is not a matter of whether we should have the welcome center, but how the city's going to pay for it. Tammy has a budget. She's got it all lined out for the rest of the year, and it doesn't have the welcome center in it. And if she has to put it in next year, something's got to give. She probably will have roughly the same amount of money, a little more, next year. And if we put a $60,000 budget in, additional item in there, something else has to give. So there's only X number of dollars in that budget, and I think that's the point. I think what Dave is saying, and Dave, you could say what you're saying, but
Well, it's just that there's no use coming to an agreement if the money ain't there. I mean, we've gotta have the money, and that money is there with that 5%. So, and if that doesn't pass, there's not much point in even having the discussion, because it's not gonna happen.
But then, you know, that's one way to look at it, but the other way to look at it is, are we?
You should have the agreement before you get the money.
Are we gonna agree to an extra 2% when we don't know where it's going to go or how it's going to
Well,
be?
it'll be spent for tourism. It cannot be spent for anything else. It could be more billboards out on Highway 70. It could be more radio time. It could be television time. That's up, you know, that's why we have a tourism
well,
council.
but Dave, you could even say it's to pay the tourism director's salary and the welcome center at these amounts.
Yes.
Not to exceed this, and anything left over would be for additional advertising based on what the tourism commission and Tammy wants to do. There's a lot of ways to do it.
I think we're just looking for an assurance that supporting the Welcome Center falls under the definition of promoting.
I don't know that anybody here that's not in favor of making sure that welcome center is running as good as it can run.
And
I
I
just want
think
to
it
make
is.
sure there wasn't a legal thing, the obstacle to using tourism dollars for the Welcome Center.
What has to be very careful is how it's done.
But there's not a legal
Well,
obstacle.
we cannot just give the Chamber of Commerce money.
Oh, yeah,
It
there would
doesn't
be
work that way.
protocol, of course there'd be
Yeah,
protocol,
okay.
but
But
there's
I
no
think that
obstacle.
it's well within the guidelines of considered tourism promotion, having a welcome center and handing out things to get people to, so they can move around town and see what's going on and spending money, welcoming them here. I don't think there's any doubt that that is an allowable expense.
Even
Be
if
taken
it's run
from
by the
lodging
chamber,
tax.
even if it's run by the chamber, or managed by the chamber, I should say.
Well, now that's, I don't know about that. I just know that we can spend the money on it, and, we need to look into that. I mean, that's not something we can decide tonight, but the first thing is, Dave said is, if we don't have the money, then there isn't gonna do a lot of good to talk about it, because we don't have the money. So, anyway, that's what, Dave, do you have anything else on that?
I think if that tax, and we need that tourism lodging bedding tax, because that money would go into our tourism director's budget. And we would take the welcome center underneath that falls underneath her budget also. Now, she may work towards the chamber for help in managing it, but the total responsibility will fall upon the tourism director, and maybe to schedule the hours and the billing and what have you.
Okay. Any other questions? Do you have any, you're just here to have fun, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, basically, we're down to motions.
Yep.
The first one is the minutes.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion made to approve the minutes and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have invoices for payment.
Make a motion, we pay them.
Second.
Motion made,
I'll third
and
it.
Alderman Shermer says it has a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. 2020 liquor license renewals. Trish, I understand we don't always do these in group wise.
Twice a year, yeah. I have everyone's paperwork and everyone is paid.
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
We do make a motion, he says.
Second.
Okay, and second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried as well. I have a motion for adjournment.
I have one question,
Yes.
just for clarification. What you're rewriting here, the occupancy thing, how is that gonna be written? Or did we decide?
No, we left it up to everybody to give their input.
Okay.
Send your input.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted a
Yeah,
clarification.
that's how we did that.
All right, I'll make
Okay.
a motion, we adjourn it.
Now, you have a motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry, I like to get home as much as everybody, but what if there's,
Three different ideas.
yeah, right.
Well, then we're gonna have to hash it out.
Yeah. That's
We
why we're
have-
having another
there's-
meeting.
There's no other way, and we have another meeting, so. Okay, I need a second for adjournment.
I
Second. Oh, Susan.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned, thank you.
I didn't realize you two were sitting over there in the middle of it.
All right, we're done.
All of a sudden looked up, Robert was grinning. Robert.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll give you this one.
Page one on that one, link to Ivy and I made.
I'm not ready, Greg.
I got something.
Well, give it to someone to the kids.
I'm not gonna give up, hand them out, find somebody, I'll take it to work.